So over the last couple of days, I've been visiting Universal Orlando Resort in Florida, and they happened to have a Cinemark there, where they were having an early showing of the movie Twisters. The original film of this series, Twister, was one of my favorites growing up, which is why I was very excited for this upcoming film's release. So now that I've seen the film, what are my thoughts on it? Before we get into this, feel free to like and subscribe if you'd like to see more film-related content such as this. Also, we're not going to be giving any major spoilers in this video, and we're going to try to stick to what we already know from teasers and trailers. Now, for the main synopsis of the film. In this film, we follow Tyler and Addie, two very different members of the storm chasing community who both have one goal: to disrupt a tornado from the inside. And as a record-breaking tornado outbreak spreads across the state of Oklahoma, they may finally get their chance to achieve their goal, as long as they can avoid the tornadic hazards. Now, going into this movie, I didn't expect the story to be great. I thought it'd be a special effects spectacle with a mid-story. But the idea of disrupting a tornado from the inside did sound intriguing, but a little bit unrealistic, so I was interested to see how they would portray this idea on the big screen. And while the idea does sound a little bit silly, they portrayed it in a realistic manner and kept it pretty grounded. Now, since the film is centered around storm chasing, you kind of get to see a life cycle of a storm chase, from it being fun and interesting to getting a little more serious when you get a little too close, to the horror of realizing that you can't escape the monster tornado. Now, this film does borrow some traits from the original Twister to form their characters' backstories. For example, Addie was a storm chaser who then took a step back to pursue another career in the field of weather, but then was called back to her job in a once-of-a-lifetime tornado outbreak in Oklahoma. Now, similar to the original Twister, this film does have a good storm chaser team, bad storm chaser team trope. And from the trailers, I got the impression that Tyler and his team of amateur storm chasers would be seen as the antagonistic storm chasing team. But they do switch things up a bit, and I'm not going to say exactly what so I don't spoil it, but it's pretty interesting. Now, throughout the movie, both teams are chasing the same system of storms, so it's interesting to see how both of them perceive the same storm differently. While Tyler and his team are doing it for the thrills and to get footage for their YouTube channel, Addie and her team are much more serious and do it for the data and to help save lives. Now, we've established that these are two very different storm chasing teams, which makes it interesting when they come together to help each other out. Now, I would definitely say that this storyline is similar to the original Twister film, but they do change things enough to where it does have relevance and is pretty interesting. Speaking of special effects, let's talk about that. The original film, Twister, which released in 1996, had very revolutionary special effects for its time, but unfortunately they don't hold up very well today. On the other hand, its sequel has amazing special effects. Everything looks so realistic, and it looks just like real-life tornadoes. The only part that I could say that wasn't realistic was a scene where the clouds were rotating, and it looked like a time-lapse video, but it was supposed to be moving at a normal speed, so that's the only thing I can say wasn't very realistic. Now, this film does use a lot of scientific terms that even I, someone who's been interested in tornadoes for years, didn't understand at times, but they do make it obvious by what they mean by it. For example, they'll say some scientific term, and then one of them will say, so basically the tornado's dying, or basically the tornado's growing. So even though they do use a lot of scientific terms, you don't get lost because of them. In the original Twister, there was only one major scene where you got to see a tornado hit a small town and you got to see the destruction it caused. But throughout the entire film of Twisters, you see the damage path and the destruction that each and every tornado causes. They focus a lot more on the destruction of the tornado, since these tornadoes don't only occur in open fields in this movie. Now, as I was walking out of the theater, I was kind of thinking to myself, okay, the story was good, the characters were interesting, the special effects were amazing, but something feels a little bit off, and what is it? My only problem with this movie is its music. It feels like every 5 seconds there's a music montage with a real artist's music, and there's so much of it that it really takes away from the cinematic music. In the original Twister, there was like this eerie choir song that they would play whenever a tornado was coming near, and that really stuck with you. But now, I mean, there's just country music blaring while you're chasing a tornado, so it kind of takes away, from the seriousness of the tornado at times, and B, it takes away from that amazing soundtrack that we all know from the original Twister film. Other than that, it's a pretty good film in my opinion. The characters are interesting, the special effects are amazing, they show the beauty and the terror of a tornado, and they show the process of storm chasing, from the fun storm chases to the serious and deadly ones. Obviously, it is going to be a little similar to the original Twister because there's only so much you can do with a tornado movie after you've already made one. I mean, what else are they gonna do? Oh no. But they do manage to change things up a bit by switching around some character roles, adding in some new storm chasing technology, and setting the tornadoes in places where they can cause some real destruction. My rating for this film, a 4.25 honks out of 5, and I'd say it's definitely a worthy sequel to a film that's almost 30 years old. But hey, do you have a different opinion on the film? Leave it in the comments below. But anyways, that's all for this time. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you'd like to help support the channel, feel free to like and subscribe. But anyways, that's all for now. This has been Fowl.